So yeah, that's my master chain. Again, small things, little things here and there. Welcome to the studio. Today is a very, very special day here in Germany. It's the beginning of the really heavy carnival season. So everyone is drunk. All of my friends are in the city center and drinking. I'm not. I was first thinking about maybe, but then again, this weekend is so busy and there was so much to do and I'm working on so many new tracks that I don't want to drink 24/7 and have a hangover 24/7 for the next 4 days. So I'm skipping it and using the day actually to do something that is quite the opposite of going outside and partying really hard. I got this brand new, it's actually not brand new anymore, 16-inch MacBook. I bought it 2 weeks ago, didn't have a single second to actually turn it on and install it and make sure it's running. So that's what I will do today, reinstalling all of the plugins, making sure Logic is working fine, all of my old projects are working fine, transferring backup and like all that kind of stuff, which I hate, but that's part of being a music producer. So since that is really boring, I thought, why not share with you my master chain, like my mastering process. I'm not a mastering engineer. I still know a little, or like a little more than a little about mastering, and it's enough to master my own songs for the club, master them to make them sound loud and good enough to send them out as a demo. And then when a song's released, the label will usually take care of it. They have their mastering engineers to get like the last 1 or 2% out of the song, make it sound fat, analog, have someone else to double check it in another studio with their ears and their experience. And yes, it helps a little, but I think the chain I'll show you today is enough for most kind of cases. This right here is my Save the Day project. It's the mixing project where I mix everything, and it has the master chain on top at the very end. I'd say for electronic dance music, definitely mix with a compressor and limiter on the master. That's at least for me the best way to know what it will sound like at the end when it's mastered. Just for example, one problem usually, or actually two problems, the kick usually hits so hard in electronic dance music, it's so loud that it triggers the limiter, and by having it on there you can already adjust the volume of the kick. If you don't have the limiter on, you might make your kick way too quiet. Actually, it needs to feed into the limiter because it's most of the time the most energetic and loudest part. And then second, if you send your song to mastering and they will compress and limit it hardcore, you will have the problem that the breaks are emphasized. So the drops won't hit that hard because the break, the build up before it, is almost as loud. And I hate it in the club when I'm playing an EDM song in front of people and I then have to readjust the build-up because it's so loud and so noisy that it hurts, and then the drop doesn't deliver. That's usually because the mastering engineers, some of them are lazy or don't know about it, but they actually need to cut the song and make the break parts quieter. You can do that already in your production whenever you have the limiter on top to make sure to test that. So here on this song, and this varies a little, but the things that are always on there, definitely EQ, compressor, and limiter. Here I got an EQ just to cut away the very low end, just 25 Hz, 48 dB per octave, just to double check nothing is there. This usually also gives you a little more headroom. The second plugin is already cheating a little. I sometimes use it, sometimes I don't use it, sometimes I use it extremely, sometimes I just let it do a little as I'm doing it right here. So let's maybe like mute everything else so that you can hear what it does. It's called Gulfuzz. By the way, all of the plugins I use I'll link down below in the description. This one right here, it matches whatever your song is playing at the moment and tries to make it sound better. So you just slap it on there, adjust it a little, and it usually makes sure that frequencies that are sticking out are brought back down again, and then you can brighten or make the entire mix duller. just some extreme settings for you to actually hear what it's doing. Then next I got the solid EQ bus. I rarely use it, but here in this case I wanted to boost the frequencies at 15K by, that's actually too much. It should have been like 1.8. Just like to have a little more like brightness up there. I thought like the track is dull. That's something that really depends on the song. And I actually, if you're the producer or mixer, I would go back to the mixing stage and add this kind of EQ to the separate elements that need it, because that's how you have way more control. But here the song was finished. I had the feeling everything is nicely balanced, but just that tiny bit in the top part was missing. Then next up, something that is also again a little like cheating. It's a match EQ. So I've taken the previous song, because this one right here is a follow-up to Secrets. I've matched it against it, because like the kick is the same, the bass, like the build-up, the parts, the elements, the vocals in there, just to like make sure they are like sonically more into one direction. And you basically just take the current song, hit learn, let it play, so it analyzes the frequencies, and then you hit reference, do the same with the reference track, hit match, and then it will show you a graph. So for example, this song right here has too much below 50 Hertz, has a little bit too little at around 2K. And then what I usually do is like dial it down to maybe 30%, and then A and B compare with the match EQ on and off. It's a slight change. It's a great way to also double check. For example, if it does something really extreme, for example, it's like trying to reduce at 50 Hertz, 10 dB, then probably your kick is too loud and you should go back to the mixing stage. So I just like having it on there to glue the sound together and match it with previous songs that are already mastered. Then we got Isotope, that is at the moment running in demo mode because I'm still installing all of the plugin. This one right here is the imager. It's just to make stuff wider. I usually would also go to the mixing stage and do it individually on the parts, because again, way more control. But here I had the feeling that like the upper part of the frequencies could use a little bit of widening. It's actually not that much. The next two plugins are by far the most essential, because when it comes to mastering or your master chain, it's all about getting the loudness out of the song. And number one, what I usually do is a compressor. I've always used like it's a preset actually in the glue, but you could just copy the settings. It's called Catch the Peaks, and that's basically what it does. You just adjust the threshold to a point where it's catching something, usually 1 to maybe 2 dB. It glues together kick and bass. And if you exaggerate it, that's up to taste. It starts pumping and gives you like a very typical over on the master compressed pumping sound. I don't like that, but some people are crushing their songs on the master. So let's activate it. So again, it's just like a little bit, like a tiny bit. Don't do anything extreme. Like all of these plugins don't do a whole lot, except for the very last one. The last one is Jon Sine Vintage Limiter, also at the moment in demo mode. That's what it's doing the most. It's like squashing everything together. It's giving that this modern kind of fully limited, very loud kind of sound that you hear on all kind of tracks. There is maybe one thing I should mention. If you can't make your song really loud, and I'm talking like minus 8 dB RMS, then usually something is wrong with your mix. Usually it's too much kick, too much bass, or both way too much. Maybe the main lead synthesizer is too loud, but most people actually make the kick and the bass too loud. So then go back and try to lower them, remove frequencies that are unwanted, just shape and tighten up the bass and kick sound. Sometimes making the kick shorter helps a lot to have more headroom, make your song louder, and get kind of that sound. For some musical styles, it doesn't matter that much being loud, but I think for electronic music, pop music, and also like urban everything, it just needs to be loud in your face. I don't really want to start a loudness war debate. It's kind of silly, but that's the way it is. You have to compete. Everyone is doing it, and for most people, generally, if something is louder, it just sounds better to them. So make it loud without distorting, of course. If it distorts, there is probably something wrong within your mix. So yeah, that's my master chain. Again, small things, little things here and there. The Gullfoss and the Magic Cue definitely sneaking a little, but it's getting me the results that I want, and the rest is up to taste except for the compressor. I think that's really important to catch the peaks, and then the limiter just to get that loudness. And again, use a master chain on your track. I usually add it whenever I have like the first loop going that is working. So usually kick, bass, main synthesizer, and vocal if there is a vocal, and maybe some hats and drums. And then I slap it on just soft, not really that hard, and see if it works. And it usually tells me if there's a mistake in the mixing or I need another kick, another bass. So it's back and forth. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Tomorrow back here in the studio, full vlog. Carnival's then hopefully not that mad anymore, because I'm just getting messages. Where are you? I'm here. I'm drunk. Let's have some fun. And I'm like, nope, I'm in the studio. As always.